Lichéesh satini Johan Gunalchish hati adi ach tu Lichéesh satini stu qachata tikranachaya iyejaneye. Good to see you all. Thank you for coming here today. I feel great to see you, and I feel really grateful for your hard work. So that's something I'm thankful for today is I get to come here and see your hardworking faces. So come on in. I know folks are still joining us, but get your tea, get your water and your notebooks, and we'll jump right in.
Okay.
I just figure I should get my shit together. Okay, apply and prepare parts.
Yep.
Okay. And what's the date?
It is the 23rd.
All right. So we are at week 4. Today is November 23rd. We have a fun class today. We'll begin as usual with some question and answers. We'll have a little bit of a discussion. We'll also work on Ati's question. So at the end of last week, Ati had a language question for us, and it's pretty advanced. So I've designed the next few lessons to run you through my process on how do I work on a message like this where I need to translate it and understand what's being said. So that'll take us into a little bit of an introduction to glossing. I say that with air quotes because glossing is a process where you break down a sentence by its components. And when you get up to a professional level or an academic level with it, it's important that you use a systematized notation style. But since we are at a beginning and intermediate phase, I'm going to take you through how I did it when I was a beginner so that it's accessible and achievable for you right off the bat. So we'll do questions. We'll review your homework. Last week, I assigned some pages from the beginning Lingít workbook. And we'll do some drills and then we'll do homework. So Ati and I had a discussion before class today, and I got her permission to crank up the heat on you a little bit. It's November, we have snow falling on the ground, we have ice on the roads, so let's turn up the heat. That being said, I would like to remind you to be kind to yourselves. I might push you a little bit, bring you outside of your comfort level, but I also want you to accept that challenge and accept yourself if you're not quite there yet. So just be patient and know that it'll come with time. Before we work on Ati's question, are there any questions from the class so far about either content that we've covered or any other questions?
I have a quick question. In your opening, I keep hearing the word Johan, and I'm just not familiar with that. I'm sure I've heard it a bunch, but it's now just registering as a separate word.
Oh yeah, okay. That's good when you recognize those kind of aha moments. And Johan is how you would address multiple people. It means you all. Yeah, Johan. Okay. Let me write it for you so you can see it written. So it's YEEWH, high tone AAN. So the first vowels are long and low, and then the next one is long and high. So you'll hear a tone switch, Johan.
Johan.
Everyone go ahead and repeat after me. Johan.
Johan.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Feel free to raise your hand or unmute your mic as we go. And okay, so Ati's question. She received this message last week. It's a 2-sentence message, and we're gonna spend the next few weeks, a portion of class, kind of learning how to make sense of it. So when you receive a message in Tlingit and you don't know what it says and you need to respond, I'm going to take you through my process that I've used. And I'd also like to share that when I started learning Tlingit, I made it one of my personal goals to talk as much as I can in Tlingit to my teacher, who was unei. And so I recognize, oh, that guy speaks a lot of Tlingit. From here on out, when I see him, whatever I need to say, I'm going to say as much of it as I can in Tlingit. And he has a really incredible ability to grasp what you're trying to get at. So for me, in the beginning, I made tons of mistakes. I didn't understand modes or how to conjugate verbs, but he could make sense of what I was saying, and it was super fun. And because of that, anytime he would email me, he would do just what he did to Ati. He would write it in Tlingit. Oops, sorry. I gave away who it was. Sorry, Khane. But so anyway, I really appreciate this practice, and I'm going to take you through my process. So the message she received was Dultóow sigu iyit ha hididek Ḥukaháa ha in X'úxʼ itach helke wasak qati. Okay. So I'm going to start to introduce you to how to make sense of a message like that. But first, this brings me to a new, possibly new to you, study habit that I used since I was a beginner. And looking back, I think it has helped me a lot. And so whether you do this or not already, I kind of want to invite you to be on a path where you make this part of your study. And that is basically glossing sentences. So let me just show you a picture to illustrate. This is an image of one of my first weeks of notes in my very first Tlingit class. And I would write down, the teacher would always write down what he was saying in Tlingit. He would tell us the English meaning, and sometimes he would chunk it out so that you can kind of see literally beneath the part of the sentence what that part means in English. And the reason this is important is that Tlingit and English have different word orders. And so when you go to start speaking Tlingit, don't say things in the same order that you would say them in English. And this practice of glossing or breaking down components of the sentence and putting the literal translation right beneath it, I realized over time helped me internalize Tlingit word order so that I didn't have to break a sweat later once I started trying to speak. I didn't have to study word order. Okay. So the very first line you'll see up here, I think I had asked my teacher, how do I say I went snowboarding or I went skiing? And he wrote it on the board, and it was and so I knew that meant I went skiing, and I wanted to break down each part. So was dry snow. So I made a little bracket underneath it and put dry snow. Cut, you can kind of see I made a bracket for on, and then that T at the end, I chunked it separately to mark, okay, this is marking that it's a place. Khat, I didn't write, I just wrote Ḥukaháa or Ḥukaháa. And that that meant I slide. So you can, as you get more advanced, you can break down a verb in terms of its pronouns, its thematic prefix, all the different prefixes and the verb root. But in my beginning stage, I just said Ḥukaháa means I slide, and that was good enough for me. Ugh, I wrote that down. That's my Ajaji skis. And then tin, you can see I wrote with above it, but then I also wrote all the variations because they must have told me you could say tin, you could say tin, you could say teen, or you could say teen. I wrote down all the variations. So this is all to say that in my note-taking, in my beginning phase, I tried just the best I could to write down everything. And it might not all make complete sense to me in the moment, but it's something I can refer back to. And so I highly encourage this. And I'll run you through a few more examples. I have a few photos of my notes to kind of share with you in case you find it helpful. So looking at the bottom, there's a line that says, and then you can see I circled ge and moved it to the end. So this must have been a variation. The teacher was saying you could also put it at the end, but we know ge is a question word. And so I put question mark beneath it. Is the cafeteria. De, okay, that's a motion. It means to or toward. And then Ḳukaháa. I didn't understand prefixes or verb roots yet at that time, but the teacher told me it means you will go. And so that was good enough for me. Did you remember when I told you we didn't have the beginning Tlingit workbook yet and we drew our own pictures? So these are my pictures. And it was like kind of fun to go through this notebook and see my drawings. But oh, you can kind of see. So disclaimer, there are a lot of spelling errors in this page. I never intended for this page to be a teaching tool, but this was my best attempt at writing Tlingit the best I could at that moment. So just your reminder to just do your best. But for example, up here for Happy New Year, Sigu Yis Tak. Sigu should be high tone O. Yis, I think, is a high tone E. Tak is a high tone AA, and then KW. So I'm missing the W here. But yeah, I had quite a few spelling errors, but the point I wanted to make with this slide is this line that says right above my drawing of the hand and the bracelet. So I wrote the for wet. It actually means that. But then under I wrote book because that's the word for book. Ga, I put a question mark underneath it. Yi, I didn't write anything. Maybe I didn't know what it meant yet, but ji wo, I learned means in possession. And so in English, you would say, do you have the book? And you can see that I wrote that in English on the side. And this is actually still the format I use as I work on transcription in a more involved level. I still do this. I put Tlingit first on the left, and then I put the English translation on the right, which is how you would say that phrase in English. And then beneath the Tlingit, I do a gloss where I write literally what each part means. And again, this helped me internalize word order because do you have in English comes first and the book comes next. Whereas in Tlingit, you're saying that book as the first thing, that book ga yi ju wo in your possession. So let's take a look at a couple more. Lingít G. This is the name of the phrase book. It means say it in Tlingit. but writing down each component also taught me a little bit more about Lingít Tundatani, or the way of thinking in Lingít. Because if I only learned this to mean say it in Lingít, I'm not quite getting the difference in thought, in the thought world, where, so in English, we say in English, say it in English, where you're like, get this idea, you're in something. And Lingít, you would say Lingít Geç'énach, and this should be a high tone E. Is mouth, and nach is kind of like through. So say it through the mouth of a Lingít person. Lingít is actually Lingít for human being, but it's also used today to refer to the Lingít nation and language. Okay, this one I wanted to share, the third line down. It says Dak anach sa isiti. And so Dak ana. Okay, Dak I said, okay, that means which one. And then na could mean nation or moiety. And then I did see how I did a slash here after na before the ch. This was so that as the teacher explained it to me, I would understand, okay, na is its own word for moiety, but then I'm adding this sound to the end of it because it has to go with this verb isiti. So you can kind of see how I made a note of that. I made a slash, and then I sort of put is, which is a loose translation, and connected it to this UR verb isiti. And this helped me internalize, okay, the verb siti needs to come with a added to the name of the group that you are. So if I'm a teacher, Tóoch is teacher, and then I'm adding because I know over time sati needs to have that sound. Does that make sense? Do people have questions so far?
Turning up the heat already.
Oh yeah, we're getting into it. We're getting into it.
I'm like taking it in, and also, well, I'll have to watch it again.
Yes, do that. And don't feel like you have to nail the meanings as I explain these. You don't have to internalize the grammar patterns. The point of this demo is to show how I took notes. And also, let me just acknowledge my privilege. When I started learning Lingít, it was like my 4th or 5th language. And so I had been through the process so many times before of how do I go from knowing nothing to using this language to communicate. And so when I share the things I did, it's to help you, but it's not to say that I just expect you to nail everything right away. It's a process.
Thank you for leaving the dates on some of these notes. It's helpful to see that it can happen over time as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I took these, what was it, 2017? And so that was like 5 years ago or 6 years ago. And it's just, yeah, it just happens over time. Your relationship with Lingít, you might have a goal of becoming a speaker, but that doesn't mean it has to happen by this December or this May. Or even by 5 years from now. For me, it's a lifelong relationship. On this page, I wanted to highlight halfway down the page, there's a phrase that says, sit itiqi. And so you can see I wrote in English on the side, bay, that is where the glacier was, okay, or Glacier Bay. And I went ahead and broke down each part. And this is where I kind of fell in love with this word ite, because you'll see it so much. Footprint. The footprint of the sun ray, like on the floor where your cat lays. Comes from ite, like we're going through a place where it's just the remains of it. It's like just a way to say I need it. And so yeah, I really loved this concept of ite. And one time I heard Lichéesh say, when you eat Cheetos, then you get Cheeto ite on your fingers. And I thought that was so funny. So yeah, sit is glacier, ite is the remains of it. And then G is bay. And then I was starting to grasp relational suffixes. So I made a bracket here for this I at the end of G, recognizing that high tone I at the end of some words can be a relational suffix, meaning it's relating that word to another word. So bay relates to the place where the glacier was. It's the bay that is where the glacier was. And that's why you add that I, sit ite. Okay. And last one I wanted to share is just kind of illustrating different styles for taking these notes. You know, I wasn't systemized at this time, but I just did my best. So I think my teacher asked me, or somebody asked me, and then I must have asked, how do you say that in English? And then they broke it down for me, each portion. And so this time I just did lines down to the word. Can be used loosely as just in English. I didn't write the meaning there. It kind of means like a different one. Ḳukaháa, pencil or brush. I just wrote polite question. Okay. So, and then I is you. I wrote hand, but actually I would change this now to possession, because jin is hand, but it kind of sounds like ji or jiwu, which means in your possession. And so, okay, since I didn't write the English sentence here, I kind of want to invite you to get in the mindset of like, okay, I wrote down each part. Now, how would I make sense of that? Because this will help you as you start to translate sentences from Tlingit to English. You're going to translate each component, and then you're kind of mix them up the way you need to make sense of it in English. So just different one, pencil, brush, polite question, you, hand. So I had already given you the answer, but you can kind of see that process of like, oh, maybe they're asking me politely if I have a different pencil. Maybe they need a pencil. And so that's just a little illustration on a study habit and a practice I want to invite you to use.
The couche
Uh-huh.
polite question.
Yeah.
I mean, is that like please if it's in the form of a question, or not so much?
No, it's kind of more like perhaps. You could sort of think of it as perhaps. So and it also kind of can imply that there's a probability that it's true. So for example, one time I tried saying something in front of Kszene, and I ended with Yaksha, and that kind of meant like, is that right? But sort of implying that I think this is right. Whereas if I wasn't as sure, I might say Yeakwa is that right? Being like totally open to the idea that what I said wasn't right. So Ksha, in that moment, I translate it as polite question, but I do think it also implies a little bit of likelihood on the speaker's part that you think it's, I'm pretty sure you have an extra pencil.
Okay.
kind of meaning.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So that was my little demo on my study habit. And now let's get back to Ati's question. So we won't get through the whole translation process today. We'll visit it a little bit each week. But step one, when you receive a message in Tlingit, step one is to read it, because you need to make a habit of making these sounds part of your speech. And some tips I want to share are, when you're reading, take your time, breathe when you need to breathe, and do your best. Because sometimes in class, you might hear folks trying to read a sentence and they're nervous about it, which is totally understandable because there are a lot of sounds that are new to folks. But unfortunately, sometimes when we feel uncomfortable, we'll gasp and then tense up our shoulders and then try to get it over with as soon as possible so it can be done. And then unfortunately, you sort of like, you don't take the time you need to practice the sound. So this is just your reminder to take your time, breathe, and do your best. So I'll read each line and folks can unmute your mics and just repeat after me. We'll just go line by line. So first one is Dultóow Sigu. Okay. Next one is Lingít. And then the next one, I'll actually break it down into hahidide and then the last word. So the first part is hahidide. And then the second word has a k and a k next to it. So the way you tackle this is to make that first K attached to the previous sound. So de, you're gonna turn it to dek. So repeat after me, dek. Łakuch. Dek łakuch. Ha hidi dek łakuch. Okay. Ha in. Shkun itach. Helge wasak kwati. And I accidentally made a high tone T, so let's do it again. Helge wasak kwati.
Could you say it one more time? It's
Helge wasak kwati. Okay. Okay, step 2 to translating a message is identify any parts you already know right off the bat. So do folks recognize anything in here?
X'úxʼ is something about feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Happy,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
All right.
Mm-hmm. So Sigu, we'll put something about feeling. And then maybe happy? Question mark?
Maybe
Do,
Say again?
I think two people at once, I interrupted, so whoever was sharing should unmute and share.
maybe wanting.
Yes, that's correct. Dultóow sounds similar to Dultóow, but Dultóow means they are happy. In them, they have a happy feeling. Whereas Dultóow is a different meaning. It means they want. So Dultóow, they're happy. Dultóow, they want. So let's change this. Okay. This is all good. Anything else we recognize?
Is
A
his
sun.
day- Is
Mhm.
it house maybe? I'm
Yeah.
thinking of house.
Yeah, hit. And I'm gonna color code it here. House. Actually, you know what I should do is put it beneath, just like I showed you. Okay, I'm gonna put it in red since I can't really make slashes on here. Okay, house. Anything else?
I think ha means our.
Yeah. Oops. And I'm actually gonna chunk this whole thing. How would I do that? Yeah, no, I'm gonna stick with what we have. I'm gonna start to make some dashes in between so that it's easier to see the separation. Anything else?
The wasa on the last sentence, I think it's how is or how
Mhm.
are.
Mm-hmm.
You just reminded us that ge is a question.
Yeah. Get is a question. So I'm gonna put a question mark here. Okay. Anything else? Okay.
The ha is our.
Uh-huh. Ha is our, and then so yeah, we have ha hiddi and then ha in. Has anyone seen this before? This word in.
I think I've seen it next to river or water. No,
There is that sound. That's good recognition.
yeah, the
Heen.
sound.
Heen is water. In low tone is a little bit different. And so now that we've kind of identified, I heard Ati also identify this. Iyit is your son. Now that we've sort of identified some words, let's go into the dictionary and start looking things up. So if you haven't been to the online dictionary yet, you find it by going to lingitlanguage.com, and then under resources, you click dictionary. And when I'm searching online in my web browser, I really prefer this bottom link for the HTML version. For me, that just makes it easy to search. And then you'll have to scroll down. Since this dictionary is in 2 parts, I like to click Lingít because I like to start with the part where the entries are in Lingít and it translates it to English. Okay. So now I'm just going to search for, so we see ha here, but I'm going to search just to see if ha'in is in here. So I'm going to go, I'm on an Apple computer. So I'm going to go Command F, and I'm just going to type in ha space in. Oh, and it's there. So you can see in my search bar that there are 6 appearances of this phrase ha'in in the dictionary. And what I'll generally do is hit enter till I see them all. And then I'm satisfied. Okay, I think that's what that means. But ha'in, we can see here means with us. And a variation is to say han. So now you know if you hear han, that could be a contraction of ha'in. And both of them mean with us. So like I said, let's just scroll through and see what else is in here. You'll find example sentences. There's an example sentence that says, Ha'in Łukaháa, he talked to us. Ha'in X'úxʼ, tell us a story. Ha'in Tóoch, it's going to affect us. And Lichéesh ha'in X'úxʼ, thank you for being with us. So now our exploration of the word ha'in has provided us with all these different phrases we can use and practice to make part of our speech. So let's go back, ha'in, and I'm just going to translate this directly to with us. Okay, what else do you guys want to look up?
Shagoon.
Shkoon, okay, let's do it. Okay, so I'm back in the dictionary. I have my search bar open. I'm just going to paste shkoon, and it looks like it appears 4 times. So let's take a look. Okay, shkoon means school. And so it's listed in this entry as a variation to these other words. So the entry says, Atuskú dakahidi. Okay, we know that's a word for school. And then we have all these variants that you might also hear for the word school. Okay, that kind of means like the place where people teach. And then you have some words of you have school that is pronounced in Tlingit pronunciation, both skoon and shkoon. Okay, so let's just go ahead and see what else is in here since we're looking.
Anna, this
Uh-huh.
is probably like such an elementary question, but like when I go to look up words, I get so confused because so I'm seeing here that the Tlingit is in blue and then the word school is in blue. But
Yeah.
then, you know, there's so many different variants. Like, how do you know what you would use?
Yeah, yeah, I know. I guess I would use any and all of them. So I kind of, how do I approach that? If I'm picking berries, I might be going after red huckleberries. But if there's ripe blueberries nearby, personally, I'm going to fill my bucket with both. I'm not going to pick and choose, but I'll try to, without putting pressure on myself to know or feel like there's one precise answer or correct way. I might try to internalize one based on my context or what I want to do or say, and then glance over the other ones and make a mental note. These might also be used. And I think in conversation, when I have conversations with elders and I'm reaching in my memory for words to recall, oh, I've heard that before. Oh, that's what it means. Or, oh, I've heard that before, but maybe I won't get it till the next day. I do think it helps me personally to take the time when I'm reading a dictionary entry to be like, okay, I'm going to use X'úxʼ for school. But if I hear these other sounds, I might recall that these are kind of related to school as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And I think like, I mean, just having you walk through this is so helpful because like more than once I've like gone to look up words and just navigating the dictionary, I've been like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to use this dictionary. Like, and this should be simple, but somehow I think just as I'm landing into this landscape, it's taking me a minute. So thank
Oh,
you
yeah.
for doing this with us.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love that you're on this journey. And when I talk about looking up words with my cohort members who are also in advanced Tlingit with me, I call it research. I call this phase my research phase, whether I'm expressing myself, writing my own sentences, or studying a recording or translating from Tlingit to English. I'm like, this is my research phase, going through the dictionary, finding all the options, taking notes, maybe memorizing one thing and just sort of glancing to other things. But that's a very good question, and just keep with it because you're doing good. Okay, I'm glancing through the other entries and oh, this is a different one. Sometimes when you type in a word, it'll appear as part of another word, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's connected or related to that word. So X'úxʼ is not related to X'úxʼ. It's just both of them happen to sound like sku in English, okay? It's maybe a homonym. Okay, so we're gonna end here because I want to switch up our activity a little bit, but this is something we'll keep working on each week. And I'll try to clean this up so it's maybe more consistent formatting, but this is a good starting point.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't speak up quick enough there. When the first one that you went to, the first example that wasn't schooner, it said residing at. Does that mean it might be a boarding school, or is that just how they say when people are at school for hours at a time? What is the fine piece there?
Let me find what you're talking about because I missed it, but I want to see.
There we go.
Oh, here. Oh, okay. Okay. So earlier we talked about glossing, and
Yeah.
this is a more academic and systematic form of glossing where Unei has used a very consistent system for notating each part of the sentence. And so this, where you see this word residing in parentheses, okay, this whole string of words and symbols is the gloss for this whole string of symbols. Okay, this is the English gloss for this Lingít gloss. And it's a translation of place where people are taught there. Okay, so that's a literal translation for the phrase Xu'xʼ at Dultóow. And so the reason this is in here is so that as you approach levels where you want to break down each component so you can use them and to meet your conversational needs, you can pull these apart and apply them as needed. So we see a high tone double A, ah, and then an X. Okay, this is the gloss for this first word in the entry, and then we see a plus sign and ka. Okay, this is the gloss for the second word in the entry, ka. So if we want to know what each part means, we can look past this black arrow, and there we see the literal translation for each component. So this is a level up from the notes I showed you where I was doing this in my very beginning days. So is translated to there, and then you see a period that corresponds with the hyphen, and then an X. Okay, now we know, okay, this X means at, in other words, residing. And so if I want to say I'm in Anchorage, I would say Ċ'úxʼ. And you might have heard that pinched X at the end of Ċ'úxʼ, which means Anchorage. Ċ'úxʼ. I'm at Anchorage, but I'm residing at Anchorage. So in this case, residing is sort of an illustration for how to describe that X, which is also called a locative. It's kind of telling you you're at there, the place at where people teach. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you so much for taking the patience and time to go through that. That was good for me. Thank
Oh
you.
yeah, I love it. I love the questions, and I love the opportunity to kind of branch out, because sometimes these entries can be daunting. They can be a little bit much, but I'll tell you that at my phase in my learning, I use these to help me understand what's being said to me, and also to help me express myself in the language. So it is very helpful. All right, so we're gonna revisit the beginning Lingít workbook. And if you don't already have it, I'll put this link in the chat. Okay, I just pasted a link in the chat for the beginning Lingít workbook. And we are going to continue our vocabulary study. So last week we studied vocabulary from pages 15 to 17. Today we're going to do 18 and 19 and practice some question and answer drills. So let's go up to the vocabulary. Starting with a yodati. So everybody repeat after me, a yodati.
Ayodati.
And a yumdati.
Ayamdati.
And just a reminder that T in parentheses signifies a location where this variation is used, and the T stands for Teslin. Okay, repeat after me. Keys.
Keys.
Nukshiyan,
Luxian,
Xuxyan,
Luxian,
Gut,
good,
Good.
Wuxiayi.
Wuxiaye,
I love your tones. Una,
Una,
Yai,
Yai,
Yao.
Yao.
Okay. So that's it for vocabulary, and we're gonna practice some new question words. So if you want to ask somebody a yes or no question, is this blank? You would say the thing and then repeat after me. Akya.
Akya.
Akya,
And for folks that are flipping through the paper book, this is page 30. And so let's use one of our words. If I want to say gut for dime, repeat after me. Gut akya.
Good.
Good.
good, Akya,
And then if I said that to you and you're answering me and it is indeed a gut, then you can say, repeat after me. Ah, gut awa.
good, Awa,
Awa.
And let's say I asked you gut akya, and I'm actually holding a nukshian. I'll say gut akya and then repeat after me. Taik nukshian awa.
Like.
Luxian, Awa,
Away.
One more time. Gut akya.
Good.
good,
Akya.
Akya,
Taik nukshian awa.
Like.
like, Luxian, Awa,
Away.
Yeah, you sound good. So akya, you can see this particle ya. And as we learned last week, this relates to something that's in the speaker's space. Ya is like right here. And it translates to is this. Okay, is this a good? If it's out of reach, maybe across the table, you would say aqua is that. Okay, so the wa, I'm the speaker, the thing I'm talking about is out of my reach. So instead of saying, is this a gut, I'm saying, is that a gut? Okay, so repeat after me. Gut aqua.
Good.
And then say you're holding it. So it's a ya is like you have it. Yes, this is a gut. You would say gut aya.
Aya.
Or if no, you're not holding a gut, you're holding a pair, a wuxiayi. You would say kaik wuxiayi aya.
like, Wuxiaye, Awa,
Away. Anna, will you remind us how to ask? Like, how do you say this?
Yeah, you can do it a couple ways. If I am holding a gukra and I just don't know how to say this and I'm in a room with a speaker, I might say dasaya.
Dasaya.
And I'm asking, what is this? And they'll kind of know from context that I'm a language learner. I'm asking, what is this? Or if I want to be specific and they might not know that I'm asking for language purposes, I might ask them, how do you call this in Tlingit? In which case I would say, Wasa duwasak yata Lingít G. And so what I'm saying is, how is this thing called? Wasa duwasak yata.
Wasa duasak at ya
Yata.
yat
Yeah. Wasa duwasak yata. And then the last part is Lingít G.
Lingít einach.
Yeah. Lingít G. Okay.
Are you gonna write that down for us?
Oh yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate these reminders because I forget. Okay, let me find it. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna put question. How to ask what it is called. Okay, so put one option is dasaya. What is this? And then the next one is
Will you say that last word now that I'm seeing it written after Lingít?
yeah, this one here.
Yeah.
Yep. This one means through, kind of literally through the mouth of or in the language of. And so the first sound you'll make is this underline X pinched and then a high tone EI. So repeat just this first part after me. A.
A.
A,
One more time. A.
A,
A.
Mhm. And then the second part is a short high A and then an underline X. Nach.
nach,
Nach.
And since these are both high tone A and nach, your voice is kind of gonna sound cheerful, kind of bouncing up. And so repeat the whole word after me. Einach.
Einach,
One more time. Einach.
Einach,
Good. Sounded good. Okay.
So that works well if you have an object. Can you use that for a phrase as well?
For a phrase, yeah. Okay, let me do it. Yeah, let's see. So give me a phrase.
We'll go meta here. How do you say
Okay. I'm trying to think from a communication standpoint how I would say that and what reality I would be saying that.
Well, like what if you were to ask like with the love of the people we will succeed. I've heard that phrase used in Lingít. And so if you were asking how do you say this phrase?
Yeah. Oops. Okay. Okay. Let me say this out loud and see what it sounds like. Wasa duwasak, with the love of the people, we will succeed. Lingít G. Yeah. Yeah, I think I would say that if I'm asking an elder how to say something. I might also say, I might also do it like this. Wasa duwasak yat ashinge reinach. With the love of the people, we will succeed. So I'm going to copy this as an option 2. Okay. Wasa duwasak yat ashinge reinach. With the love of the people, we will succeed. I think either one of these options would work. Because you're asking, how do you say this in Tlingit? And then you're saying the phrase. I watched a cool video recently of Lichéesh using this phrase. Her English name is Bessie Cooley. She's a really beautiful speaker, one of my favorites. And she was telling a story, and she was saying it all in Tlingit, so she knew it was, you know, the context. She knew that, you know, she meant in Tlingit, but she said, she was telling a story all in Tlingit, and then she was like, Wasa duwasak, Mother Nature. And it kind of made the recorder laugh because she was telling a story and she's like, it was really wasa duwasak, Mother Nature. It was really, how do you say Mother Nature? Like it was, you know, the weather. She's talking about the weather. So this is a way I've heard a speaker use that phrase recently.
Is that phrase then, if I'm understanding you right, it's used as like a rhetorical, trying to produce a concept?
In this situation, it was, yeah, because she was trying to produce a concept and being like, how would I even say this in Tlingit? But you can also use this format as a language learner to ask how to say something. Wasa duwasak, turn right here. Wasa duwasak, I'm hungry. You know, sometimes you might hear advanced learners saying that in immersion spaces or something, sometimes sarcastically, but also in a learning context. Like, how do you say this? Okay, you guys, Saved by the Bell. You don't have to do drills today. but when we come back, we will be doing drills and reviewing vocabulary. So let's look at our homework. All right. Homework for next Friday. So you have 10 days. Review vocabulary in the beginning Tlingit workbook, pages 15 to 19. All the way to Yao, all the way to herring. And then also review questions and answers in the beginning Tlingit workbook, pages 27 to 30. For folks that need more of a challenge, I have a second homework activity, and that is to take a screenshot of these phrases or take them in your notes if you haven't already, and go ahead and go through the dictionary and find as many components of them as you can. See if you can get all of these phrases. And also, if you could do me a favor, mark where you hit a barrier so that we can talk about that in class. Like there was a certain element of a certain word that you're like, I can't find this anywhere in the dictionary alone. What do I do? Lichéesh?
Ganashish.
Gunnar.
Sheesh.
Ik eet tachwasa ach tu klikke je kag uhan gan cheesh ye janaye. I feel so proud of you guys. Thank you for your hard work. And we'll see you next Friday here at 10 a.m.
Thank you.
So yeah, question.
Ah, zie je, Christine.